Good evening and welcome back for episode 2 of Reinventing Andrea 2.0, the all new podcast dedicated to my journey through bariatric surgery. In episode 1, I talked about the process that I went through to get approved for surgery. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. It's not just going into a surgeon's office and saying you want to do it and then it gets done. If you missed episode 1, I highly recommend going back and listening to it too, especially if you're thinking about pursuing weight loss surgery for yourself. All right, so tonight I'm going to be talking about my pre-op diet. And before I get started, I just want to say again that this is my experience. Every surgeon and every insurance company has their own requirements, and I'm fixing to tell you that again because it's something that you really, really need to know. So, before we get started, I just want you to know that this is a one-woman operation. I don't have writers, editors, sponsors, or at least yet, or any of the other fancy stuff. I write my own content, record it in my bedroom with my dog snoring behind me, and I edit it myself, and I don't make a dime off of this. Or my other podcast, I have a true crime podcast too, but it's mostly just something that I enjoy doing as a hobby. Be sure to check out the links in the episode description for my social media pages. And I also want to add right here that this is my experience. See, I told you I was going to say it again. And experiences will vary. And I have learned along the way that from talking to others that the process varies from surgeon to surgeon, state to state, insurance to insurance, and patient to patient. Now, on the days leading up to when I was to start my pre-op diet, I decided to have some food funerals for a few of my favorite foods that I wasn't sure if I was ever going to get to eat them again or not get to have them for a long time. One night I made some baked spaghetti. It's one of my most favorites. And the night before I actually had to start my pre-op diet, I decided to grill myself a ribeye steak. Now, ribeye steaks are my most favorite food on this planet. And I was kind of sad sitting there eating my steak because, like I said, I didn't know if or when I would get to have it again. And just so you know right now, I did have about 2 ounces of a ribeye steak when I was about 7 weeks out of surgery. And I know 2 ounces doesn't sound like a lot when you got a whole ribeye sitting there, but it is when your new stomach is only about the size of a walnut or maybe an egg. But y'all, I savored every single bite. And I've had it several times since then. And it does set well with my tummy. It's one of the things that I can tolerate. Thank you. Okay. But anyway, I had my food funerals up until the night before my pre-op diet. And that pre-op diet started on September the 3rd. I got up fairly early on that Sunday morning to get started. Because, I had to get in like 5 OptiFast shakes, and they had to be spaced out through the day. There's only so many hours in a day. But along with those 5 OptiFast drinks, I could eat a small meal that consisted of lean proteins like chicken or turkey or fish or lean beef, that kind of thing. And I also had a vegetable with each of those little meals, and the vegetables had to be non-starchy. And compared to others, pre-op diets that I have read about in a Facebook group that I'm in, I think mine was a pretty generous one. I mean, a lot of people in that bariatric group that I'm in, they can only have liquids like protein shakes, water, broth, that kind of thing. So the fact that I actually got to chew food once a day made me feel so thankful when I would think about how other people are just like having to survive on just liquids before their diet or before their surgery. Now, I have to say that the first 3 days were the hardest because like I said in the first episode about weight loss, it's getting your mind right. You see, your family still eating yummy, normal foods. And it's kind of heartbreaking. And at about a weekend, I had my grandson's birthday party was during the middle of that. He's my only one, grandkid. And there was no way I was going to miss it. But, while everybody's like sitting around eating like pizza and birthday cake and ice cream, I was sipping on my OptiFast, but I made it through it. And by then, I was in the groove of the pre-op diet, so I didn't even feel deprived. And don't get me wrong though, because there were times that I wanted to like lick a Dorito, okay, just get that cheesy goodness off of it, or eat through the middle of a jar of peanut butter. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I felt like if I ate through the middle of the jar and not around the sides, nobody would know that I had even eaten peanut butter unless they opened the jar. And my kids rarely eat it. So, I mean, but I never caved. Now, there was a couple of free foods on my pre-op diet that I could have freely throughout the day. One of them was pickles. And I swear I have never eaten so many pickles in my life, and I'm not lying. I mean, back then, pickles were life. I mean, they kept me going. Now, one of the other things that I could freely have was sugar-free Jello, and I ate a good bit of that too. But I'm not even lying when I tell you that to this day, because I ate so much of it, I never really want to eat Jello ever again. And just the thought of it kind of makes me feel sick. I don't know. And Jello's good. I just think I ate so much of it that um, I just can't do it anymore. And the thing is I had even bought some for the days after surgery because it was considered a liquid that I could have after I had my surgery. And I didn't even eat a single bite of it. And I'm going to get more into the surgery on the next episode. But like when they would bring food or food to my room, like the trays, of meals, I guess you could call it. Jello was one of the little things they would bring it, but or they would bring on that tray, and I never even touched it. And the nurse, she was like, "You don't want this Jello?" And I'm like, I'm sick of Jello. I can't do any more Jello. But now you might want to ask, or you might be thinking, what is the purpose of the pre-op diet, and why are you on it for 2 weeks? Well, the purpose of a pre-op diet before bariatric surgery is so that it shrinks your liver, because most of us who are candidates for weight loss surgery, we have fatty livers. By shrinking your liver, your surgeon has more room to work around inside of your body when he's rearranging your guts. And I've heard of, some doctors closing patients back up after they make the incisions and see that their liver is too big because, well, for one thing, they don't have room to do what they need to do. And for another reason, sometimes it shows the doctor that the patient didn't follow the pre-op diet, or, or didn't follow it to the letter. And, the liver didn't shrink. And I mean, that would tell you they're not ready to dedicate themselves, but that's really up to the surgeon at that point. And I'm one of those people whose liver did not shrink, but it wasn't from not following the diet. I'll tell you more about, the surgery and everything that it entailed on the next episode. But I followed it to the letter, and when he opened me up, my liver had not shrank. And honestly, I don't know what he had to compare it to because there was no test that showed how big my liver was. But anyway, thankfully, when he looked at my liver, he didn't just like sew me back up and send me back home. But I'll get more into that on the next episode. Now, as far as the length of the pre-op, like I said in the first one, I could have had to do 4 weeks of the pre-op diet, but I didn't because I was able to lose the 10 pounds that they had asked me to lose. And he typically requires anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Now, like I said, I only did the 2 weeks because I lost the 10 pounds. But the rule of thumb there with my surgeon is that he says that if you can lose 3% of your total body weight before surgery, you only have to do 2 weeks of the pre-op diet. And if not, it's an entire 4 weeks of it before surgery. And I've seen others in that bariatric group that I mentioned earlier. I've seen them say that they only had to do a clear liquid diet the day before the surgery, and that was it. And then other people have done a clear liquid diet for like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever before their surgery. So like I said, it just varies from surgeon to surgeon, patient to patient, state to state, insurance to insurance. But now, so when it came to the day before of my surgery, I still had to do the 5 OptiFast drinks, but I couldn't have the small meal. And I could have, those clear liquids like water, broth, sugar-free Gatorade, Jello, but no food. And I had to have all of those OptiFast and everything else. I had to cut that off by 8 o'clock that night before my surgery. And at 8 p.m., I had to drink 2 bottles of this stuff called Ensure Pre-Surgery. And before I was going through this process, I didn't even know that that was a thing. But apparently what it does is it helps you heal quicker from surgery. And I think, don't quote me on this, because that's been a while back, but I think they also said that it keeps you hydrated through surgery. Like I said, don't quote me on that because, like I said, it's been 4 months since I had surgery and a lot has happened since then. So I'm not exactly responsible for that part. But anyway, my daughter, she had told me that I could spend the night with her the night before surgery so we could leave the morning of surgery bright and early. So when I got to her house, I drank the 2 Ensure pre-surgery drinks, and then I took my shower. Now, I need to back up because at my pre-op appointment with the anesthesiologist office, they had given me a bottle of, you've probably seen it before, you may have even used it before. It's the Hibby Cleanse. I think that's how you say it. But they gave me a little bottle of that to shower with, and it basically kills the germs and stuff. So I had to shower with it that night before I went to bed, and then the next morning I had to get up and take another shower with it. Well, after I got that shower at night, I was like, well, I'm gonna get me some sleep so I can get up bright and early and get ready for surgery. Well, I climbed into bed, but y'all, I was just so excited to get this new journey started that I only slept maybe 2 hours. After that, I was wide awake, and I guess it's just the excitement and maybe even a little nervousness. But after I was awake, and I spent the rest of the morning until my daughter got up and was ready to go. Well, I was watching LA Fire and Rescue on Peacock, and if you've never watched that, I think it's pretty good, but that's just my kind of thing anyway. But anyway, those hours, they just ticked by so slow because I guess I was just so excited to get there and get this started. And I really thought it was never going to get time for my daughter to get up and get ready so that we could head to the hospital. But the sun it finally rose, and it was time to hit I-385 to Simpsonville and head towards my hospital that I had my surgery at. And y'all, that is where I'm going to leave it for tonight's episode. On the next episode, I'm going to be talking about all the things that happened on the day of my surgery and during my hospital stay. Now, y'all have a good night, and be sure to come back for episode 3. Oh, and don't forget to check out the links that's going to be below the episode description, and come give me a follow on social media. I've said it before, but I'll say it again, just in case it's the first time you've listened to the podcast. I'm most active on TikTok. Most times I post on there multiple times a day, and sometimes I don't. I do. There is a Facebook page, but it's usually, or what I've been saying is that it's backup for like TikTok, because you know how they keep saying we're going to ban TikTok in the United States and that. So it's just somewhere to fall back on just in case that ever happens. Hopefully it don't, but yeah. And then there is an Instagram page too. But anyway, y'all have a good night, and y'all come back next week for episode 3.